Hey guys, this is Danny Boy, and this is Precipice on Nightmare, and this is the strategy I use to get 5 skulls. I tried a few different strategies on this one. It was kind of hard. It wasn't too bad, but it took me a little while to kind of get things under control and figure out what I wanted to do. I tried, other than this strategy, just filling the entire area, essentially, with spike traps and arrow traps and things, and it actually worked pretty well, all told. And you can get a lot of spike traps out really quickly because of how cheap they are. I almost got 5 skulls using that strategy. I feel like you ultimately could make that work, but it's a little more difficult than it needs to be, and it... Really, the main thing was just, I believe it's round 4, a bunch of gnolls come, and it was really hard to kill those with that strategy. But anyway, this strategy I used grinders and tar traps and scorchers and haymakers eventually to kill everything, using barricades to kind of force them to move along that right hand wall. And I used the blunderbuss for supplementary damage. I used a fully upgraded ice magic, ice amulet, whatever it's called. Apologies, I don't know if they're amulets or rings or whatever, it doesn't really matter. So I upgraded that so that I could kill as many flyers at once in a single cast, and it worked well. I also tried the lightning thing, but I preferred ice overall. I prefer ice to lightning. Both definitely options, but I feel like ice is a bit more versatile since you can slow down ogres and trolls and gnolls and whatever. But both viable, I would say. So I killed all the flyers myself on this, and had my traps mainly kill the enemies, though of course I'll shoot them with the blunderbuss at every opportunity as well. I also used the fire magic thing, firewall, to stun enemies, to stun the ogres, near grinders, and whatever, the big enemies, the elementals. I used the scavenger trinket because, again, I'm not really relying on coin forges for this one. I'm using the scavenger trinket. I'm using tar traps and scorchers, so those already take up floor tiles, so my killing zone isn't really congruent to coin forges. That's how it's been for quite a while now, actually. Personally, I think I prefer the scavenger trinket to coin forges, actually. It gives you more strategic options, though coin forges are nice if you upgrade them to increase the amount of damage enemies take when they're on the coin forge. Can be helpful, but when you think about it, would you not be better off with just tar traps, or for damage spike traps and brimstone traps, or whatever? It's a choice, I guess. But I'm setting up the minecart to run along this track. The enemies on the left side that spawn on the left side will mostly run along that track, so that helps me kill them. And it gives me a lot of extra supplementary damage, which is really nice. Let's see, I'm using a trap reset trinket to just make my traps reset faster. It is upgraded to make them reset even faster. I don't generally use the trap reset trinket to manually reset my traps. Usually that's only in a really dire emergency, but don't usually do that. I don't believe I do it throughout this video. My barricades are spec'd out to be as cheap as possible, and to take reduced damage from attacks, I believe. This was actually recorded yesterday, but I believe all this information is accurate. So, that's basically the strategy, so you'll just see me executing it. The toughest thing was just getting out enough traps to deal with the waves, really. Haymakers make things a lot easier. Eventually I'll place haymakers on both sides, which really help against the more powerful enemies and just kind of thin the herd as well. But the real tough thing was just killing all the flyers myself. This required a lot of situational awareness. I had to pay attention to the minimap. I had to kind of memorize how many arrived at any given wave. Not perfectly, but just have a pretty good idea. Because it's very easy to think you killed all the flyers and just they're far away, you didn't see one, you weren't paying attention to your minimap, and one flew past you and went into one of your points. So it's just situational awareness, really. And making sure that I actually hit with the ice trinket, because... or rather the ice magic, because the blunderbuss really isn't a great weapon for these flyers at these distances, certainly. So the ice magic is really important. I really need to hit with it. A lot of misses, I run out of mana, and I'll have a serious problem. Worst comes to worst, you can definitely use all the boulder shoots you have to kill flyers as they stream in, so in an emergency you can rely on that. If you're facing a bunch of ogres or something and your traps aren't handling it, you can lure them underneath a boulder shoot and kill them that way, do a lot of damage that way. Boulder shoots do quite a bit of damage. Resetting the minecart there, I'll occasionally accidentally hit it with the blunderbuss, and it will go along the other track, and I generally always want it along this track as much as possible. Not that it's bad if it runs along the other track, it's just this track is a much better choke point. So yeah, I'm also using ice magic to deal with the gnolls. I might occasionally use the minecarts, but it's kind of hard to time it properly so that it actually hits the enemies, but you can use it, by which I mean the ones that have lava or whatever.
I live for mass orc killing.
But yeah, it's also definitely, I think, good to have the reduced damage on these barricades for the occasional grenade that hits them. They can take a lot of punishment, though you could upgrade them for self-repair. Actually, I think I did upgrade them for self-repair. Yeah, I did. Not reduced damage, self-repair. I don't believe there are any sappers on this map on Nightmare. So didn't really need to worry about that so much. You also need to worry about just taking too much damage. There are no rifts in this map. They're just not for you to actually heal at, and I didn't have a healing well, so I did need to worry about that to an extent. It's easy to take a lot of damage from gnolls or crossbowmen or ogres or whatever. Getting stunned by ogres on this map is pretty much a death sentence because they usually come in groups of at least 2, so 2 ogres will kill you long before you can escape without the get out of stun trinket, whatever it's called, the freedom trinket.
Now how many was that?
So yeah, beyond just the strategy, it's really just execution, placing the traps properly, getting enough money. Try to use the scavenger trinket, but I do sometimes forget, and also sometimes I just need mana for other things. And I don't have the mana rage trinket in this build. I couldn't fit it in. I wanted the trap reset trinket, and I wanted everything I had, which really sucks because I love the bonus mana from that, just the passive bonus mana when you upgrade it and whatever. But eventually, now that I have this entire side filled with grinders and they're moving along that side when they approach from the right, I'm going to place a ton of scorch traps. I'm going to place a bunch of haymakers in the low ceilings on the far right and the far left. I'll actually go through the mine tunnels just to get there quickly. You can go through the mine tunnels as a shortcut, something to keep in mind. I'll eventually probably put barricades in front of both of the points, just in case somebody gets past me, they have to go around. You'll see that probably later if I remember to do it. I think I did. So yeah, I have tons of money right now, and things actually are pretty well under control. I want to place haymakers, that's what I'm about to do, but I wanted to kill these gnolls first. I didn't want to get caught out in the open and die, because I was at half-life. Would have sucked. So, that's basically it. Just to get a little off topic for a little while, I am, guys, going to post those stupid Adept videos. I got home late Sunday. I worked on these videos for quite a while, and I just didn't really have time. I was just too tired. I was up until 8 in the morning on Monday, finishing that off, so I was up for over a day. So I will definitely try to do that today. It's just kind of, it does take a while. I have to do some work with those, so I would like to work more on this if at all possible, but it will get done. Appreciate your patience. It's really my fault. I just forgot all about it for a long time when Diablo 3 came out, and I was reminded like once, and I just, again, it slipped my mind. Unfortunately. Also, apparently Mass Effect 3 is getting yet another DLC called Leviathan, and I was excited for about 2 seconds until I looked it up. Leviathan is, yeah, more single-player content, hooray, but it's like $10, which I wouldn't really care. Either 10 or 15. I think it's only 10, which is nice, I guess, but it's just adding 2 weapons, and those weapons are, I already have those. Those weapons are, I think it's the Argus and the Raider, and those are pre-order bonuses or digital deluxe edition bonuses or whatever, and I already have them. So that doesn't excite me at all. Other than that, it's just weapon upgrades, some new mods or something, which I don't really care about. I really far more interested in actual weapons, unless these mods somehow dramatically change weapons. But even then, I really don't think I'm going to care. Not certainly care enough for $10 worth of stuff. And then it's just maybe some more single-player stuff to do, but without weapons, really not enthused at all, especially compared to all the stuff they add in the multiplayer, all the weapons, the new classes and abilities and whatever. That stuff excites me way more than just some more content to go through. That's not really what's going to pull me back to the game. So really disappointed about that. Also, if you don't know, you can, I'm pretty sure you can just mod your game with the save editor and unlock those weapons right now for free. So if you just want those weapons, you can just mod your game. And you won't get banned from Origin. You only get banned from Origin if you mod your game so that it affects the multiplayer and gives you an advantage. You can mod the single player and it won't actually get you banned. So if that's what you're interested in, just mod it and unlock it that way. And there are guides on YouTube as to how to do that. There are guides on the BioWare forums. Just type in Google Mass Effect 3 modding thread and you'll get a great guide to anything you could possibly need to know, basically, about modding Mass Effect 3 on the BioWare forums. So, no real reason to pay for that. Disappointed. I've honestly lost a lot of faith in BioWare after this game. I like the game, but their DLC practices really disappoint me. And they were already kind of, after Dragon Age 2, it was iffy. That was also a really big disappointment. AAAs in general, so far, have not been great, in my opinion. Kind of disappointing. Dawn Guard finally came out for PC the other day, which was waiting for that, and it looks fun, but it took them, like... Oh... Yeah, that was close. These guys almost got past me. Fortunately, it calls it out. But, anyway, yeah. It took them forever to release it for PC. It came out on Xbox first. And then when they finally did, it's like a $20 DLC. 20 bucks? A bit much. I can't really justify spending that right now when there's others. I mean, Torchlight 2 is going to come out in some months, and that's going to be $20. I mean, I guarantee you that's going to have 100 times the content and replayability of Dawn Guard. I don't know. I don't have so much money that I can just throw it around at anything. And a 10-hour DLC, I don't know, maybe there's more content in it than I think. We'll see, but right now I really can't afford it, so... Alright, so yeah, as you saw, I've placed haymakers, I've placed a ton of scorch traps. One thing that I probably wouldn't do in the future is place scorch traps right in front of my barricades, because they're flipping guys over my barricades, which is bad. So that's why I wanted placing a bunch of extra scorch traps to deal with any that flip over my barricade and behind my line. But this is nearing the end, I think, of Wave 7. A couple more final waves coming up fairly soon. And overall, this one wasn't really that bad. Making par wasn't a problem at all. It was really easy to make par. That's really the hardest thing for me, is just making par, because generally speaking, execution usually isn't a huge deal, and figuring out the traps and whatever, but sometimes just you'll have a choke point that's farther back that's really great to use, but because it takes so long for them to get to it, overall, you'll miss par by like a minute or 30 seconds or whatever. So you need to use a worse position that's closer up a lot of the time. And that's the hard thing for me, because I don't like to abandon that safer strategy. I'm reluctant to abandon it, so I try to make it work for a while, and then eventually I finally do abandon it. Chasm's an example of a strategy that I didn't really want to abandon, that I thought I could really make work, even though I was missing par by like 10 seconds or so. But generally speaking, if you're doing it right, you shouldn't have a ton of trouble missing par if you have a really solid strategy. My strategy for Chasm probably could have been stronger, but I was just kind of stubborn and I wanted to just make it work because I was missing par by just such a short margin. But whatever, it's done. If I went back and did it one day, I'll probably go back and do it on War Mage to get 5 skulls on that. I have more 5 skulls on Nightmare now than I have on War Mage, I think. I'm sure, actually.
Honestly, lost count.
I'll probably go back and see what I could have done on Chasm in that respect. Even though it would be easier, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway. Yeah, this level, it's just the flyers. There's a lot of runners, but they're not really that bad. There's no sappers, there's no cyclopses or goblin shaman or anything. Kind of surprised I haven't actually faced those yet. They really saved those for the end, the last few levels. This is already level, I think, 7. We're about halfway done as of this video. I've actually gotten 5 skulls on a couple more levels, but I need to do the VO for this one now, so this is the final wave. There's just a ton of flyers that you need to deal with. This is also something that you can do with ice. You can run to one side and face them more horizontally and line them up easier. I usually just face them like this, head on, but you can deal with them a little easier that way as well. And I'm not sure, but I feel like Thunderbats are actually resistant to the lightning spell thing. Because I did try it, but it seemed like they weren't taking enough damage considering the mana cost, whereas ice one-shots them. It just one-shots flyers, barring maybe the frostbat. I'm not totally sure. I think they might be resistant. Don't really know. I'm sure I'll find that out a little later. Ice magic has generally been my go-to for dealing with flyers for quite a while now. The only other thing that I like to use is just archers occasionally, if I can get enough that they're self-sustainable and they don't just instantly die. But auto-ballistas don't really seem to work that well, in my experience, and the shock zappers don't seem to work that well. They seem to have been nerfed a bit since the last game. I used to use those not only for dealing with flyers, but just dealing with regular enemies. They were so powerful. But they don't seem to work as well now. It seems like shock zappers and the swinging maces have definitely been supplanted by haymakers. Haymakers are really, really good. Just as swinging maces were really, really good in the previous game. But, yep, that's it. That was Precipice, 5 skulls, ton of bonus skulls on that one. Easily made par, almost 3 minutes. Very generous par. Not a problem at all. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Please like the video if you liked it. Please sub if you want to see more. And leave comments and feedback, and I'll get back to you. And have a good one.